Okay. So we're going to go live, Dr. Rob. Okay, it takes a second on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, we're live on the gram.
We're going live on the gram. We are going live on the gram. It takes a couple clicks. Okay, we are officially live on the gram, and we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Yes. Everything but I think TikTok. So good afternoon. I'm Amanda Marino, owner of Next Level Recovery Associates. I'm so excited today to have Dr. Rob Williams on with us to share with you about his breathwork journey. But please follow Next Level Recovery Associates on all platforms. We're here on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. If you have any questions, any comments during this presentation or during this chat, we keep it very authentic and real here on Recovery Solutions. Please chime in the chat and ask Rob and I, and we're happy to answer anything that you have. So Matt Williams, who is our Chief Heart Officer, who's a man of many hats, is the brother of Dr. Rob Williams. And I put up a post towards the beginning of the year, kind of wanting to branch out of my norm of who I meet with and who I interview. And Rob messaged me, and it took me a little bit to get back to because I sometimes don't see everything, but I was like, absolutely. And I love what you do with breath work. I see that you live in Vermont. You do a lot of things in nature. So please introduce yourself to the live world here on social media.
Sure. And I have to tell you, Amanda, when I reached out to you on Instagram, I was in Boca Raton, Florida, at Matthew and Chelsea's place.
Nice.
Yeah. And I happened to see that. And so I asked Matt, there's like, should I send her? And I said, of course. Yeah. So yes, I'm Dr. Rob Williams. I am the co-founder of a San Diego-based breathwork training company. We're called Peak Flow, www.thepeakflow.com. And yes, I am Matthew's older brother. And let me embarrass him for a moment. Matthew was born on my 14th birthday. So he and I share a birthday.
Oh, that's so cute.
Best birthday gift I ever got. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Well done.
And how many siblings do you guys have?
What's that?
How many siblings do you guys have?
So we have a middle brother as well, Christopher, who's in Nashville, and he's much closer in age to me than Matthew. So there are three brothers, and let's just say my mom is a very patient woman.
Yes.
So it's great to be talking with you, and I so appreciate the work that you're doing at Next Level Recovery. I've heard quite a bit about it from Matthew, and I think really central to this Team Human project that you and I and 8 billion other humans are a part of, central to the Team Human project, I think, is rediscovering the power of our breath. When we think about breathing consciously and strategically to flow into whatever personal and professional goals, aspirations, visions we have for ourselves, suddenly the breath becomes a much more powerful phenomenon. I think of breathing really as a team human. It's kind of a secret superpower
that we forget about, that we all have capacity.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners and viewers know, entire civilizations in human history have been built around the power of the breath. Mohenjo-daro, for example, in ancient India, they literally, in the public parks in Mohenjo-daro, would have sculptures and monuments reminding the ancients to breathe appropriately for the occasion. So humans figured this out a long time ago, that we could, as a species, tap into conscious and strategic breathing and move ourselves individually and collectively in whatever directions we wished. It's quite something.
It is pretty magical. And even with you just talking about it, like I'm noticing my breath. I'm making sure I take nice, slow, deep, like even just the consciousness of it, like you're saying, there was statues all around to remind, like, there's a sign, you'll just like, I pay attention to literally signs on the wall. Like sometimes we breathe, you know what I mean? And it just reminds you, but we're always on this, our culture, our society, or the world, human beings, it's always this go, 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 that we unconsciously do so many things in a day. So to forget the core essential thing, which is breath, we can do very easily.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about it, Amanda, is it's free breathing. You don't need a prescription or an injection or a supplement or a pill. Not that any of those things are bad, but literally 20,000 breaths per day, we have opportunities to consciously and strategically direct ourselves. And that is really quite something. And of course, this will not shock any of your listeners, but by some estimates, 80% of the human species, according to the latest science, 80% of us are breathing badly, suboptimally, which is to say, typically we're over breathing through the mouth into the upper chest rather than doing what you just said, which is to breathe, I like to say LSD, breathing light and slow and deep into the diaphragm. We call it natural microdosing at peak flow, and it's the way we should be breathing 99% of our lives. I'm trained in the Wim Hof method. I'm trained in Oxygen Advantage. I'm an athlete, as I know you are, and many of your listeners and viewers are. And there are certain breath protocols that we can tap into for a few minutes every day to enhance our health, our wellness, our sport, our fitness, and those are powerful. And before we even bring humans to that place in our peak flow breath training ecosystem, we always start with LSD breathing because most people aren't breathing appropriately most of their lives. So let's start there.
Can I ask a quick question before we dig into that? So can you just give me like a short example of like how people breathe not correctly and
yes,
or how we can breathe better and how we breathe normally? Like, give me the difference.
Totally. Can we drop into a little something? Is that okay? Okay.
That's
So
an example.
let's do it. Yeah. So let's take a quick, like, I call this like a little respiratory tour. It's fun, and we're gonna get sort of mysterious and maybe get comfortable and close our eyes for a moment. And we'd invite listeners and viewers to do this, unless you're driving. Don't do that.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. Pull over. So yeah, let's go ahead and get both feet on the floor, shake everything out a little bit. And then when we feel ready to drop into the breath, go ahead and shut our mouth. That's step number one, shutting our mouth, closing our eyes. I'm going to do this too. So just follow the sound of my voice here and take a few moments with our eyes closed, mouth closed. Just take a few moments to settle. Just observe our breath flowing into our bodies through our nose, flowing out of our bodies through our nose. So LSD breathing, LSD, natural microdosing, it is an acronym. It stands for breathing light and slow and deep. We're highlighting the three arenas of breathing when we breathe LSD. So let's flow through each of these for a moment, a breath or two. So breathing light, most of us are breathing too heavy, which is to say we're chronic or obligate mouth breathers. We're breathing in and out through our mouth during the day, during the night. So step number one, breathing light instead of heavy, is simply about shutting our mouth. And there's all kinds of good reasons to do that, of course. So when we shut our mouth and begin to breathe through our nose, breathing light, what we're doing neurophysiologically, we're targeting what we call in peak flow, we call breath flow, or the biochemistry of breathing. When we breathe in and out 20,000 times a day, how we breathe in and out allows us to recalibrate breathing biochemistry. And what I mean by that is the mix of respiratory gases moving in and out of our bodies. Everyone is focused on oxygen for good reason. Oxygen provides that life-giving energy to all 40 trillion of our cells. So we want to move oxygen around our bodies as efficiently as possible. Now, the way to move oxygen around our bodies efficiently as possible is to actually honor the power of another respiratory gas, much demonized, and that is carbon dioxide. Now, you may have heard, if you watch the news, I don't recommend watching the news, but if you watch the news, You may have heard that carbon dioxide is a waste gas, quote unquote, destroying the planet, quote unquote. Actually, carbon dioxide is in many ways our body's most important respiratory gas because carbon dioxide actually is the trigger for our body's urge to breathe. We breathe in the presence of carbon dioxide. And oh, by the way, carbon dioxide lubricates the efficient exchange of oxygen from our lungs into the hemoglobin in our red blood cells. And oh, by the way, carbon dioxide also catalyzes cellular respiration. 40 trillion cells in our bodies, and they're all breathing. It's amazing. Cellular respiration. So we actually want to coax our bodies into being able to hold more carbon dioxide in our bodies as we breathe. And how do we do this? We begin by shutting our mouth and breathing light in and out through our nose. That's step one. Step two, breathing slow. Just taking a moment to take a nice steady inhale and a nice steady exhale through the nose. Step two is breathing slow. We call this breath mind, or the psychology of breathing in our peak flow ecosystem. If I'd invite you to take your left hand, peek at me if you need to, just place it over your heart, and take your right hand and snug it right under your left, kind of center of your thorax there, center of the body, relaxing the shoulders. And again, breathing in and out through our nose. As we breathe light, and now breathe slow instead of fast. Because we mouth breathe, we're taking too many breaths, and that speeds up the pace of our breathing. And it literally breathes us into a chronic state of fear, of anxiety, of stress. So we want to slow down the breath. Yes. And as we slow down the breath, breathing light and slow, we can begin to move our breath in conversation with our heart. It's amazing. So if you bring your focus to your left hand over your heart, imagine as you inhale through the nose, imagine your heart expanding. And as you exhale through your nose, imagine your heart contracting. So we breathe in, heart expands, and we breathe out. Heart contracts, and we breathe in, and heart expands, and we breathe out, and heart contracts. And we call this beautiful dance, this conversation between the heart and the breath, we call this coherence. That's the scientific term, coherence, because the heart and the breath are in conversation with one another when we begin to breathe light through the nose and slow, using our mind to slow down our breath. Now, if we bring our awareness to our right hand below our left, it gets even more crazy and fun, because as we're breathing light and slow, bringing our heart into alignment with our breath, we can also begin to balance our entire nervous system. And our buddy Wim Hof, the Iceman, helped prove this in laboratory experiments starting about 10 years ago. We can use our breath to balance our autonomic nervous system, something that the scientific biology textbooks insisted was impossible until about 10 years ago. How does that work? Well, let's feel it first. We take a nice steady inhale through the nose. Heart expands, and imagine your nervous system moving more alert. And then as you exhale through your nose, heart contracts. Imagine your nervous system moving more relaxed. So let's try that for a few breaths. We breathe in, alert the nervous system, and we breathe out and relax the nervous system. Inhale, alert, and exhale and relax. And one more inhale, alert, and one more exhale, and relax. So just take a few breaths on your own, inhaling and exhaling. And as you do, imagine how much power there is in knowing that how you breathe consciously and strategically can pull your heart and your nervous system into alignment and balance simply by using the power of your breath. We are way more powerful than we may think. So last stop on our tour, if we just drop our hands, maybe shake out the fingers, make sure the shoulders are relaxed. The last stop on our LSD tour, we're breathing light and we're breathing slow, breath biochemistry and breath psychology, flow in mind. Last stop is about breath biomechanics, about breath body, what we call breath body in the peak flow ecosystem. We have 11 pounds of respiratory muscles in our bodies, 11 pounds. And I know all of you people in Florida go to the gym quite a bit and you lift weights and you work out and you're super fit. Rarely do we think about working out our respiratory muscles. And we have 11 pounds of them. So let's do a little bit of that here. The most important respiratory muscle in our bodies is, of course, the diaphragm. We breathe light and we breathe slow and we breathe deep, which means to breathe down into the diaphragm. Breathing deep doesn't mean taking deep breaths. It means breathing deep into the diaphragm. So if we take our hands, put them on the sides of our belly buttons, on the sides of our belly, and let's bring the diaphragm online for a few breaths. If you take a nice deep breath in through your nose, see if you can feel on that inhale your belly pushing out on your hands. That's your diaphragm performing its magic. And then as you exhale through your nose, feel your belly contract back against your spine. Again, breathing in, belly pushes out on the hands, breathing out, and the belly settles. So try that for just a few breaths. In, belly expands, and out, belly settles. And as you're doing that, just enjoy the diaphragm massaging every one of your internal organs with every inhale and exhale. And enjoy your diaphragm providing stability at your core for every form of functional movement you will perform today as you breathe in and out. The diaphragm is incredibly important as a muscle. And then very last stop on our tour, if you slide your hands up 2 inches to your sides of your ribs, and we can kind of tickle the intercostal muscles above the diaphragm, breath body, right? Breathing deep into the diaphragm. As we take a few more nice deep breaths, see if you can, on the inhale, feel your ribs slightly expand against your hands. It looks something like this. Breathing in, ribs widen, and breathing out, ribs settle. And breathing in, ribs widen, and breathing out, ribs settle. Just like that. So dropping your hands, shaking the fingers out one last time. Let's put it all together. Stay in the space for just a few more breaths. We'll just end this little journey with a little bit of box breathing for a couple of breaths. That breath exercise made famous by the U.S. Navy SEALs, Coronado Island, San Diego, California. This is the very first thing the U.S. Navy teaches their BUDS recruits at U.S. Navy SEALs School. The very first thing they learn when they show up on campus is not how to load and discharge and store a firearm. No, it's how to box breathe. So let's meet at the bottom of our next exhale in 3, 2, 1, and take a nice steady inhale through the nose. 3, 2, 1. Now pause at the top. 2, 1. Now exhale through the nose. 2, 1. Now pause at the bottom. 2, 1. We've got the rhythm. Inhale. 2, 1. And pause at the top. 2, 1. And exhale. And pause at the bottom. 2 more in, 2 more pause, 2 more out. Good, and 2 more pause. And last one, inhale. And last one, pause. And last one, exhale. And last one, pause. And now staying in the space for one more moment, just observe how you feel. Remembering that breathing light, breath biochemistry, breathing slow, breath psychology, and breathing deep into the diaphragm, breath body, or breath biomechanics are the 3 elements of healthy, optimal breathing for life. Natural microdosing, you can practice this anytime of the day, of the night, while driving, while sitting, while standing, while in conversation, especially hard conversations with the ones that you love. And as you begin to practice even 5 or 10 minutes a day, what the latest peer-reviewed science says makes a huge difference over a 3 to 6 week period of practice, bringing your breath back into evolutionary alignment with the power of the human species to breathe our way to success. So let's take one more deep inhale through the nose and pause, and let's let it out through the mouth. Completely relax the shoulders. That felt really good. One more. Breathe in. Pause and out. Completely relax. And as you begin to contemplate blinking open your eyes, notice what has happened to your vision while you've been breathing this way. As you blink open your eyes, coming back into the space. Welcome back. I think you're on mute. It's okay. Good.
Because my background noise isn't as beautiful as yours with the birds.
Well, it's funny. I could tell when you muted. It's like, oh, we're deep in silence now.
Yes. There are doors opening in my home, so I was like, well, I can be distracted and be okay, but I don't want anyone else to be. So thank you for that. That was so beautiful, and it's just to take a mindful moment. I try to always bring people something that they can take with them from the lives that I do too, along with the mental health, with the life journey, with the healing, whatever you're going through. Like, this is something that's accessible to everyone that they can utilize right in this moment if they want to, which is so powerful.
Yeah, and that's such a nice point too. We teach what our CEO, Lindsay Trubia in San Diego, calls lifestyle breathing. We're not laying out a yoga mat and practicing for 10 minutes on the mat and then leaving it all behind.
Right.
And that would be useful, of course. But really what we're about is teaching humans to be able to drop into the right breath protocol for the right moment.
Absolutely.
And that's on the field, off the field, before you go to sleep, when you wake up, when you're having those hard conversations with your boss or your wife or your husband or whatever it may be, or you're simply enjoying the flow.
I loved when you said the hard conversations, because I think how many times are we in an uncomfortable situation where we just remembered to breathe. And even I was trying to, when you said the nervous, alert your nervous system is just mindfully alerting. I'm sure there's no right and wrong, right, to this stuff, but just by believing you're alerting it, is there something that you do or visualize or say or see when you do it? Because I think just by mindfully saying I'm alerting my nervous system, whatever was alerting it, but I didn't know if there was something else to that.
Yeah, I love that question. So what we're doing when we rebalance our autonomic nervous system is we're using our breath to influence those two sets of powerful nerves that
Mm.
drop from the base of our skull, and they come down into our bodies and they wrap around every one of our major organs. You're probably familiar with the vagus. The
Yes.
vagus nerve
Hmm.
is the more famous of those two. Vagus, Latin for wanderer, because the nerve kind of wanders through the body, the vagus nerve. And then the phrenic nerve, Phrenic, the phrenic nerves. And what's so cool is when we begin to consciously breathe in a particular direction, we're tapping into the vagus and phrenic nerves. And those nerves are actually sending tremendous amounts of information up to our brain from our bodies every moment and
Mm.
every breath. We have this mistaken notion, Amanda, that the brain kind of runs the show and kind of is communicating downwards to the body. But no, we're actually getting way more information up from the body and the nervous system to the brain than vice versa. It's so interesting,
Yeah.
especially when we consciously and strategically breathe. So think about how powerful that is. If everyone knew on the planet, especially those of us who are dysregulated and diseased, which is most of us, if we all understood that we could learn how to, in 5 or 10 minutes of daily practice, to begin to actually rebalance and influence not just our body, but our mind, our soul, whatever that means to you, using the power of the spirits. And I use the word spirit because the word spirit comes from the Latin spira, which means breath. So
Mm.
we are breath-filled creatures. We are spirited. We are creatures full of spirits, and we can tap into the spirit, whatever that means to you, or the spirits, and actually recalibrate and reconfigure and integrate mind, body, and soul. It's amazing.
And when people come, so in the healing journey I've had over the past 17 years plus, like you're taught to kind of go on a spiritual journey and recovery, and find what And I used to think it had to be this, like, I'd sage my house and incense and music. I used to have to have this huge, which still has great benefits, right? Sometimes, but it doesn't always have to be like that. Like, when you're on a walk, just mindfully, paying attention to your breathing, while you're sitting in a conversation, even while you're driving. Like, I mean, obviously, you're not going to close your eyes and hold your heart and do all these things, but these are things like you're giving here, like handing a piece of gold to everyone who's watching, because this is available and accessible to us in this moment, anywhere we are, wherever we are, with just our bodies. It doesn't have to be a whole thing.
That's exactly right. And we have just put the finishing touches at Peak Flow on a new app, which offers literally close to 100 different breathing exercises for everything from postpartum to sleep to wakefulness to mindfulness to performance on the field, in the pool, on the yoga mat, in professional situations, personal situations. And you're absolutely right. 20,000 breaths per day. That's 20,000 opportunities for us just to begin to be more mindful of how to use our breathing to steer our life's journey.
We have a question. Do you see the question? It
I
says,
do. Oh, look at that. That's so cool.
thank you
Wow.
for the breath work. Do you have a recommendation for a beginner on how to start this process? Should they go to a breathwork class? Any recommendations for someone interested in starting?
Yeah, great question. The first and most basic practice is the LSD practice that Amanda and I just demoed. And carve out 10 minutes. I recommend mornings, but 10 minutes simply to drop mindfully into that particular practice. Let me be selfish for a moment. We do have an app. We have LSD breath exercises, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes in length, male voice, female voice, right? Whatever you prefer. And literally sit down in a quiet place. I like to light a candle, right? And just bring a little bit of mindful focus. You can sit, you can lie down, you can even stand, hands on your body like we just did. And practice, give yourself permission. 5 minutes, 10 minutes of simply breathing And you might practice a little bit of gratitude for all the wonderful things in your life and for simply being alive in this oh so interesting moment we live in. That would be my suggestion. 10 minutes once a day, preferably in the morning, practice LSD breathing. And then from there, you can layer up all kinds of other really interesting breath protocols, breath holds, simulated high altitude training, Wim Hof style 2-minute breathing. Yoga is, of course, a breath focused protocol. The
Do you
ancient
teach any? Do you
Indians, yeah.
teach any courses like online or anything?
Yes, we have a whole Peak Flow Academy. We offer a level 1 8-week course online to learn how to do all of this. We offer a 12-week level 2 coach certification course online for people who want to dive deep into the practice and come coach with us.
Okay.
Great
Okay.
question, Sarah.
That's amazing. Just real quick, Rob, did you have something change in your house? The airflow actually just like there's like a sound. Did your air turn on or a fan or something?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
It just
Yeah, I'm
sounds.
hearing that too. I don't know what that is though. Yeah, it's not on my end. This is the quietest my house has ever been, actually.
It's not here either. It does sound like. Doesn't it sound? Maybe it's just the spirit bringing us the air.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
So okay, so maybe after the fact, you can come on and you can put links if people
Sure.
want to follow up. So I just have questions about you. Like, so what brought you to this? Like, what's your background? What brought you to this work? Because you don't just kind of end up falling into breath work because everything's going like things like this come into our life because we've gone through some. I believe.
Yeah.
Gone through something or you've watched somebody go through something. So what brought you to this place? Like I see you do cold plunges in Vermont and you're doing, Matt, my first cold plunge was with your brother, but I told him I wanted to go and be the first one in because I didn't want to go after a bunch of people.
Good for you. That's smart.
In my own private, but but it was warm outside. So, I cold is hard for me being a Floridian, but I do it sometimes for the health benefits. So what brought you into this realm and all the things that you do? Kind of is, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, cold is hard for everybody. And Amanda, Wim Hof himself, the Iceman himself, in his honest moments, people like, oh, you like the cold? And he's like, no, I hate the cold, but it makes me stronger. And he's right. So I had a near-death experience when I was 6 years old, and I figured out from that experience that the only person who could take care of my health and wellness was going to be me.
At 6, you knew that? Or when?
Yeah, at 6. I was in and out of hospitals. It was a medical misdiagnosis. I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say it was life-altering at a time when I was barely even conscious. At age 6, what do you know, right? I fell in love with the cold, the ocean as a kid, the Jersey Shore way down by Cape May. It was our one family vacation in the summer. I loved going in and swimming and testing my breath and testing the cold in my body. And I come out, I was kind of a sickly, weakly little kid, but I come out of the ocean, I felt like a superhuman because your body's like, wow, it's like resonating, right?
Yeah.
You go into the ocean, and swimming is that way. Like you get out of a pool I had a pool workout this morning and I get out, I'm like, yeah, I feel good. I became a long distance runner and discovered the power of breath as a runner in high school. Although interestingly, none of my coaches ever explained anything about breathing to me, which is so funny.
As a runner too, huh?
Yeah, it's wild. So when I turned 50 a few years ago, as all 50-year-olds do, I had a midlife crisis, which is to say I took stock of my life.
I feel like you're still awakening.
Exactly. We're all still awakening. Every breath.
You can call it a crisis, but it's
yes.
Like I did it before I turned 40. I had an awakening, and people thought I was like, "Is she having a midlife crisis?" No, I'm just waking up to what's like, hey, I got one life here.
You're absolutely right. And midlife crisis is such a silly term for what you described much better, which is an awakening. Yeah. And I had just read something about Wim Hof and the power of hormetic breath work, which we could talk a bit about, and the power of cold. And I sort of began to connect some dots in my head. And so I did Wim's 10-week online video course, really became intrigued with the idea of teaching all this stuff. Because I've been a teacher for 30 years. I've been a college professor, 25 years, teaching human history. So it kind of fit. And
did Matt follow your lead? Because I know Matt was a teacher. Was that?
Yeah. Well, yes. Matthew was an excellent elementary school teacher, and he and I both been in the teaching space for quite a while. And we do share that. We share that passion. So I decided to enroll in the Wim Hof Academy. I met my cohort in Los Angeles the week before COVID broke across the land in 2020. And the following winter in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, 20 of us, Wim Hof instructors in training, gathered together for what became the only cohort around the world of Wim Hof instructors in training to be certified over the 3-year period with COVID. 20 of us said, look, we said to the Hoffice, they call it in the Netherlands, we said, look, we'll sign any paperwork you want, but we want to finish our program, and we're willing to show up and do it. So that's where I met my business partner for Peak Flow, Lindsay Trubia, who is the only woman and 19 guys in this 20-person cohort. And she's kind of a badass. She's a big wave surfer and a yogi and a Reiki, and comes out of corporate CVS healthcare. So she's no nonsense.
Yes.
And she and I were buddied up together for 5 days, and we became fast friends. And as these things go, one thing led to another. So that was sort of in a nutshell, my journey to breath work. I had never even heard of such a thing until just about 5 years ago. The term breath work, brand new to me. And it has been life-changing for me. And I think too, for the humans who come into our Peak Flow community. And I have to say, there's a lot of really good breath work practice out there. I'm a big fan of Patrick McKeown at Oxygen Advantage, the Buteyko method. Wim Hof is one of a kind. And I think his cold plunge breath work mindfulness method, the 3 pillars, have been life-changing for so many people around the world. And so what we're doing at Peak Flow, partnered with Nordic Wave, our cold plunge partner, what we're doing is really offering what we call this breath training ecosystem. So, Amanda, we can meet any human where he or she is at, and within 10 minutes, very simply help them self-diagnose their breathing, and then build a customized, curatable breath plan for them to get them to their personal and professional goals. It's very exciting.
So could you touch on the 3 pillars, like what the 3 are together? Because I think that, I definitely now, so did you bring this into your brother's life, or did he separately do this? Because I see he follows a lot of the stuff, a version you can do in Florida.
Yeah. That's a good question. I was discovering breath work and all of this stuff as he was kind of coming out of his recovery and building his protein bar company, FroPro. And so he and I started partnering together. So I come down to Florida a few times a year, and I teach Peak Flow breath and cold plunge workshops in the FroPro space over there at Clint Moore Boulevard in Boca Raton. So
I'd love to host you for the next one. I'd love to bring a bunch of therapists.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing. Yeah, we should do that. We should do that. And yeah, in fact,
it'll be very popular down, especially in the wellness and space down here.
Yeah, that would be super fun. I'm going to be down there, I think, the very end of June. So maybe we can put something together. But so he and I we were kind of running in parallel. And he's a fitness beast, and I've learned a lot from him about all kinds of stuff. And I'd like to think I've taught him a few things here and there. So our professional lives, have been in parallel for about 5 years. He got into the ice barrel cold plunge at the same time I did, and we've since partnered with another company. But the most important thing, Amanda, as you well know, is to do the good work of helping every human optimize their own personal potential and their own professional goals using these affordable, no-cost tools. So you mentioned 3 pillars, and to be clear, that's the Wim Hof method, of which I'm a practitioner. At Peak Flow, we offer what we call a breathwork training ecosystem. We actually have 6 very simple breath check measurements that we run humans through. It takes about 10 minutes. In fact, if you want, I can show you one if we have time.
Let's do it.
And then we build a program from there. All right, so
I like participating in experiential
things. I know, it's fun, right? Yeah. So let's do the carbon dioxide. This is the carbon dioxide tolerance measurement. It's a very simple way to take what we call an in this moment assessment of where you are kind of in your breath flow. So go ahead and get comfortable again. This is short.
I do my lives on my couch, so I'm.
Yes, I love your artwork too. I love all those.
Are they cute?
They're so cute. Yeah. Gosh, I just have one.
That's my favorite. Look at him. He's got a little smug.
I know, it's amazing. What is that? An alpaca? A raccoon? What is that?
Yeah, alpaca or llama.
Elephant and a koala.
Oh, yeah, this is my kid's living room, but it's also my great backdrop.
Oh yeah. Don't change a thing about that. Yeah, I love that. All right, so let me describe it. So we're going to do 3 normal breaths in and out through the nose. Just relax, and then on the 4th breath, and I'll cue you. You're going to take as deep a breath as you can and fill up, kind of nose down to belly. I have a stopwatch. Beep. And I'm going to cue you. And on the exhale from that deep 4th breath, I want you to try and exhale that air through your nose as slowly as you possibly can. Okay. And I'm just going to keep track of seconds, and then we'll be in flow, and then we'll talk about what happened. Okay. So let's, and again, people can do this at home. Just takes a moment. So relax, take a few moments to shake everything out. We're coming into the space again. And let's meet at the bottom of our next exhale in 3, 2, 1. And take a nice normal breath in through the nose. Good, nice normal breath out. Nice second normal breath in. And second normal breath out. And third normal breath in. And third normal breath out. Good. And now on this 4th breath, go ahead and fill. Take a few seconds. Fill. Keep filling. Grab a little bit more air. Good. And now go ahead and slowly as you can, exhale through the nose. Trying to extend the exhale 10 seconds, as long as you possibly can. 15 seconds. Imagine a pinprick leak in a bicycle tire, 20 seconds. Or a tube of toothpaste, 25 seconds. 30 seconds. Squeezing every last little bit of air out, 40 seconds. And when you get to the very bottom, 45 seconds, and you can exhale no more, 50 seconds. Just let your breath return to normal, 55 seconds. 60 seconds, 1 minute. Raise your hand if you're still going, 65 seconds. Nice. All right. So let your breath return. So we always focus on feeling before we talk about metrics in our peak flow breath training, because everyone's so metrics obsessed, right? What's the data point? What's the Fitbit say? What's my whooping, right? So how did that single inhale, and most importantly, that single exhale, how did that feel for you, Amanda?
Well, I think because I had started with some opening breathing, it was pretty seamless of a transition, if I could say that. It was pretty
Yes.
and I was able to bring in, even when you said bring in the extra breath, I thought I couldn't bring in more, and I could. And then I was able to very slowly like let it go, and it felt nice to kind of like, it did feel like that, like the gasp of a balloon,
Yeah.
a little bit of air out. And I was going till about, you said about 50, 55 in that range.
Wow. That's, I will say that's a nice metric. Was there any point in that exhale, the flow from top of the experience down to the bottom, where it felt easier or more challenging, or was it pretty, as you said, seamless throughout?
Towards the end, because I didn't know, like, our mind, of course, when I was trying to figure, is this the end? Or am I, so when I just kind of like, once you said kind of just let it be how it's going to be, then I just kind of, and it just felt very flowy, but there was a moment of resistance.
Yes.
Of the right, wrong time frame, stepping into the brain.
Yes. Well, that's it. So this is called the carbon dioxide tolerance metric. And we always start our assessment with it because there's a couple of reasons. One is it touches on all of the arenas I mentioned during our LSD flow: biochemistry, psychology, and biomechanics. And you just mentioned it, right? You said, well, my mind, I wasn't sure, right? So much of our breathing happens up here,
Yeah,
right? The
absolutely.
psychology of breathing, so much, way more than we realize. So being able to be comfortable controlling that exhale from top to bottom is a big challenge, especially for athletes.
Mm.
It's interesting. Athletes actually breathe dysfunctionally at a higher rate than ordinary mortals. About 92% of athletes are breathe, and that's because athletes are tightly wound, right? They're type A, they're very competitive, they get very anxious, they get kind of focused on their goals and obsessed with that. I'm in that camp on even numbered days, right? So we touch on breath biochemistry, breath psychology, and breath biomechanics. And we like to see, let's talk about the metric for a minute. We like to see around 60 seconds or more on that exhale indicates that you in this moment are breathing beautifully. So 55 seconds is, for the very first time doing this, that's a fantastic score. And I'm not just saying that. That's
No, I'd be dead ass honest.
no, that's great. That's impressive. So the goal from here then is to use that score of 55 seconds as a daily benchmark.
Mm-hmm.
Drop into it, every morning, every weekday morning would be nice. It only takes a minute or two to record it, same time of the morning.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the CO2 TT, the carbon dioxide tolerance test or measurement too, is you can take your score again tonight, Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
same day, and chances are you're going to have a much lower score at night because you've gone through the stresses and the trials and the tribulations of the day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it really is the CO2, the carbon dioxide tolerance measurement is a really powerful in this moment metric. They're doing some really cutting edge research on this metric in California at Scripps University and I think the University of San Diego. They've got a multi-year research project just focused on carbon dioxide tolerance.
Wow.
It's very interesting. Yeah. So we lead with that metric. And again, carbon dioxide is not a waste gas destroying the planet. It actually appears in our body at 100 times more the rate of oxygen because carbon dioxide is the trigger to breathe. It is that lubricant in our lungs that moves oxygen from lungs to red blood cells more efficiently. And number three, it catalyzes our cells, 40 trillion cells, to breathe. So we actually want to learn how to tolerate more CO2 in our body, not less.
Yeah, we absolutely need it. And so I did pick up on that too in the very beginning when we were doing the opening exercise where, we look at something, oh, like this is not a good, this is a toxic, source, but we need even a little bit of the more harmful known one to function and have optimal oxygen, right? So we need the carbon dioxide to have the optimal oxygen. So I mindfully did like kind of register that like anything, in doses or healthy amounts of it is necessary. And there's always good with, I hate to use words good and bad, but there is always the yin and the yang of things, and I did pick that up when you were sharing the opening part.
Yes, and I have my PhD, Amanda. I am a doctor of thought. I have my PhD in environmental history, and I tell my environmentalist friends, I said, look, if we want to help climate change, what we should be doing is teaching 8 billion people on the planet to hold more CO2 in their bodies. That's what CO2 tolerance is. And if we do that, everyone will be a lot less stressed out, a lot less anxious, a lot happier. And oh, by the way, we'll be sequestering 8 billion humans worth of CO2 in our bodies if you believe that CO2 is the cause of climate change. So why don't we just do that? We can all agree. That would be wonderful.
That's amazing.
Oh, and oh, by the way, the plants which give us life-giving oxygen, the plants love CO2. They can't get enough.
Yeah.
So the more we can sort of share CO2 with the plants, the more they're going to deliver back that life-giving oxygen to the human species. It's a beautiful reciprocal flow.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It's like, and it's so powerful. Like I've said, it's at our fingertips. We have access to it at any time. It can be ceremonial, it can be timed, it can be metric driven, or it can just be, right? And I think that's something that everyone can wrap their mind around. And a lot of times clients reach out to myself or my team throughout the day, and just sometimes want to, in the moment, like sometimes people don't want an answer to things. They just want to know how to get through the moment or get through what they're going through. And this can give, anyone that's watching or listening, the just something that you can use right now, like okay, I'm struggling today with my anxiety, with my depression, with my mental health. I want to use drugs. I want to binge on food, whatever the case is. Maybe just stop for 60 seconds and just focus on your breath and see what happens from there.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, so beautifully said. And I know our time is limited, but maybe one last story and
Absolutely.
experience. Yeah. So we've talked about LSD breathing light, slow, and deep. We touched on breath holds, breath pauses with the box breath. It's the most powerful thing about the box breathing is it's not the inhale and the exhale. It's the pause at the top and the pause at the bottom. There's magic in the pausing when you use it consciously and strategically.
Right? You
What's that?
have to be mindful to take
Yeah.
that pause, right? And
Yeah.
so there's nothing else you can really think about or can consume in your mind when you're mindfully focusing on your breathing and you're mindfully pausing. There's nothing else you can focus on.
That's exactly right. Most bad breathers are unconsciously holding their breath, right? And that actually engages a completely different part of the brain. But when you consciously and strategically pause at the top of the inhale and pause at the bottom of the exhale, you're actually activating a completely different part of your brain, and you're deriving all the benefits of the pause, which we can talk about on our next podcast.
Yes.
We haven't even touched on hormetic, voluntarily stressful breathing yet, which is what the Tumo Inner Fire Wim Hof approach, cyclic hyperventilation, it's called. So we'll save that for another time, and maybe we certainly do that in the workshop if we pull that off. But my absolute favorite form of breathing, and we'll end with this maybe, is called coherence breathing. I mentioned bringing the heart and the breath into alignment. Coherence breathing is an ancient practice. It's so simple. And in his beautiful book, his best-selling book, Breath, which you may know, The New Science of a Lost Art, our buddy James Nestor, who wrote that book, tells this incredible story based on his years of research. Turns out, Amanda, if you put your hand on your left hand on your heart, right hand on your belly, and you just breathe in through the nose for, let's take it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And one more out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That pattern is called coherence breathing. Roughly 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, 5.5 breaths per minute, 5.5 liters volume of air coming in and out of your body per minute. And get this. This is where it gets kind of beautiful. Every single religious and spiritual tradition around the world, Eastern, Western, indigenous, doesn't matter, has at its core a chant or a prayer or a mantra or a song that lasts exactly 12 seconds.
Wow.
Which, as it turns out, is the same length as the perfect or coherence breathing, which is called the perfect breath. Let's say 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. And let me give you one example. Matthew may have told you, I'm a yak enthusiast. I chase yaks across the Himalaya mountains, and I drop into Buddhist monasteries up high at elevation. And the monks will always welcome you into their monastery, and they'll make yak butter tea, and they'll spin their prayer wheels, and you drop into the chant with them. And the famous Buddhist chant, which I'm sure you know, goes, watch my fingers, goes something like this. Om Mani Padme Hum. Oh, mani padme hum.
Wow.
It's 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. That is the sound of the universe. Om mani padme hum in the Buddhist tradition. And you can find that equivalent in any religion. In Catholicism, it's the rosary,
Hmm.
for example, for our Catholics in the room. So think about that. Humans figured out thousands of years ago the power of coherence breathing, of the perfect breath, and they baked coherent breathing into every single religious and spiritual tradition in the world. It's incredible.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
You did mention at the beginning about the yak. So what is it? Because we talked about Utah and how to ride.
Yes. Yeah.
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 So
So
what is it about yaks? Just
So yaks, yes, well, my wife and I imported the very first herd of yaks to Vermont from Minnesota, and we ran a yak farm for beef production for 7 years. And I really fell in love with these animals because yaks are the highest dwelling land mammals on the planet. They live up at 14,000 feet. And so they are the world's most efficient breathers.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense. There was something cool tied to it. I had to ask.
Yeah. 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 Well, and you know the Sherpa people,
Yes.
the Sherpa who carry gringos mountain gear to the top of Everest, right? With nary a problem. The Sherpa people are the highest dwelling humans in the world,
Wow.
and the Sherpa people and the yak share a gene called the EPAS gene genetically, which allows both the Sherpa humans and the yak bovines to metabolize oxygen in their cells at a rate much more efficient than any other living creature. It's quite something.
Powerful. I
Yeah.
love
So certain branch of human and a certain branch of yak share this high altitude magic. And next time we talk, we'll have to talk all about high altitude breathing and free diving and what's going on there, because that's like
love that.
the high mountain trekkers and the free divers are the world's best breathing humans, and there's a lot to learn from them.
Kind
So
of have to be, I guess, to do that. To do that. So
yeah. Can I ask you a question?
yeah, absolutely.
Like what is, before we go, like what is your kind of like do you have like a regular breath protocol? Are you a yogi? Do you do mindfulness? What do you do?
I did train in Ashtanga yoga in 2011. I went to Jamaica
Mm.
for a month and did that training. I don't have like I'm I, I'm very different than your brother in the sense that I call my life flexible structure. He's very regimented. So
Yes.
I don't per se have something that I do every day. There's stuff that I do regularly
Mhm.
for me. So I do like to try. I like to try all new things, but I've traditionally done, meditation, whether it's quiet music. I have always done the hand on the heart and the stomach. I like doing things with stones. I like yoga. I even just love like stretching my body and like being conscious and stretching. Like it doesn't have to be the, you know, beautiful practice of Ashtanga or any kind of yoga, but it can just be the stretching, walking outside, sitting outside, sometimes just simplifying it like that. So I don't have it an everyday thing that I do. I do things regularly because some days I just don't, they don't happen, or some days I'm traveling, or some days but when I'm in a good regiment, it's more regular than others.
I love that. Do you know the five Tibetan rites or the five Tibetan rituals?
Not probably seen them, but I don't know top of my head.
Yeah, they're body tuning exercises, but they're a really beautiful way to marry breath work with very simple movement. And I love what you said. So my favorite thing to do about it is to sit outside in the sun, nothing on, and just breathe in and out, and like just feel the sun on your face and feel that energetic exchange with the rest of living, breathing creation. It's just, even 5 minutes of that a day is just like, oh boy,
Well, I
that's
have a new home. I just moved in a little over a month ago, and I have a beautiful yard that it sounds like I am in some kind of exotic jungle. It's like, and I don't know what's going on out there, but there's a party. And then I have my Yorkie had four puppies in November, so I have two left that are mine. So I have two Shorkies and a Yorkie. So I sit outside with them on the patio, and it's just beautiful out there. And just just going and starting the day, just sitting out there and letting the puppies play and just breathe and just enjoy being out there. It's a beautiful thing for me.
What a great, and maybe that's a great place to end. What a beautiful way to start the day. And you can just add in a little bit of a carbon dioxide tolerance metric. Don't get too geeked out, but just drop into that with a cup of coffee or water, whatever you're drinking. Gosh, amazing. Well, I hope I have.
How do people find you?
Yes. Can I share some exciting news?
Share anything you want. This is your.
I know our time is short. So Peak Flow, by the time this podcast drops, we will no longer be Peak Flow. We've been acquired. So we will now be Nordic Flow in partnership with Nordic Wave Cold Plunge Company. So our new website, not even launched yet, but about to be, is nordicflow.com. Nordicflow.com. And we'll be all over the Instas, Nordic Flow, and everywhere there's social media, we will be. Yes, Nordic Flow. And people can reach me at contact@Dr.RobWilliams.com, or I'll have a Nordic Flow email live here in just a few days. Nordic Flow. I've so enjoyed this, Amanda. It would be really fun to collaborate on something down in Florida.
Do it. I'll get with Maddie and we'll get something. Me and Matt are both big event people.
I've been watching you guys on socials. You are big events people.
Yeah. And so Matt's been, he's been with us since I started the company. So he's been with my company since I started, and now has, in the beginning of the year, taken a leadership more type role, and now is helping lead the team and doing some more things, which I'm super excited about. He's been just such a great gift, and I've watched him evolve and grow, and meeting people where they are, kind of like what you said. That's what we believe in our business, is meeting our clients where they are and not having a black and white kind of approach, because everybody's in a different place in their journey and everyone's life is unique.
Yeah. And your work in the recovery space, I think humans in recovery are really primed and hungry for this kind of work. It's been my experience.
Oh yeah, because we're extremists. So if we're going unhealthy, we're going hard. If we're going healthy, we're going, like, I've run a couple half marathons. I've done, anything. I've learned to live in the middle a little more, but I've been very extreme. And it's very common because we're really good at what we focus on. We can accomplish a lot. Those of us that have any kind of mental health, trauma, addiction, eating, just anything like along those lines, that we're really smart, capable people when we channel our energy into the right way.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I love the name of your organization, Next Level. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, we're always just trying to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Rob, for your time, your energy, for sharing with us some beautiful takeaways. And look for us for part 2, and look for an upcoming event in the South Florida area. So, and maybe we can even retreat by you, Rob. We could plan a Next Level retreat up in Stowe area or wherever you are.
Well, funny you should say, because Thursday I'm in Stowe, scoping out a new place. So we'll have to talk about that. Well, it's been such a pleasure to be in flow with you, Amanda, and I look forward to our next conversation. And until then, keep inspiring those humans and flow on.
Yes, you too. Flow on. Thank you so much, Rob. Have a beautiful day. Thanks,
you
everybody,
too,
for joining Next Level and Recovery Solutions. I'm going to end here.